Hello, my beautiful phoenixes. Hello, hello, hello. It is so wonderful to be with you here today. As we are beginning, I'm going to just check and make sure that everything is streaming the way it's supposed to. Just give me a second here. Got to refresh the group to make sure that it's going live. Yes, it is. All right. As we have people joining us, I just wanted to say welcome to Phoenix Over 40. I am Noi, and I am so honored to be here today to discuss the spiritual centering secrets that have proven fulfilling and abundant in my own life. And I am so pleased to share them as a part of the Phoenix Over 40 transformation program. As you're entering into either the Zoom or the Facebook, you can stream us live via Facebook, or you can join us in the Zoom link that is attached to the event description. Make sure to drop in where you're from, give me a thumbs up, wave hello. Let me see your energy out there, because I always love to know where all of my beautiful phoenixes are coming from. And I'll try to keep my eye on the Facebook group as well. So if you're joining me there, make sure to give me a thumbs up and let me know that you're there. Hi, guys. All right. So again, my name is Noi, short for a very long, complicated Hawaiian name. So just call me Noi. That's fine. Noi rhymes with joy is an easy way to remember that if you're new to the group. Phoenix Over 40 is my business. It's my calling. And my calling is to minister to women in their midlife stages of life, 35 to 65 or so, that are undergoing major life changes at this age, when it is harder to make change work, and that life can sometimes feel really overwhelming when you're trying to implement major changes in your career or your relationship or your body, especially as we're aging. And I am a health and life coach, certified health and life coach, and I help women become their bravest self. And today is the third pillar of my program here. I'm going to just share my screen and talk a little bit about what we've been talking about in the last few videos here. Okay, so I've been sharing the Moving from Chaos to Curiosity series. This is the foundation of the Phoenix Over 40 program. And we discuss chaos a lot. Chaos can show up in our lives as just discomfort. And we discuss how it shows up in our body, in our mind, and in our spirit. And those were all former videos. If you didn't get a chance to see any of those former videos, this is the fourth now. So we started off with our blueprint of our bravest self, and understanding what you need to create your bravest self, which is these three things: a compelling vision, a strategic plan, and support and accountability. And if you'd like a link to that video, make sure to drop that in the comments, and I will be happy to send you a link to that one. And then today we are on the third pillar of our three-pillar focus for the Phoenix Over 40 program. We are all about reshaping, refocusing, and reconnecting. And no matter what your goal is in life, whether it be in your career, whether it be in your relationships, whether it be in your body, you have to focus on these three things. They're like three legs of a stool. And if you're missing one of them, change cannot stick. Change cannot happen, and change can feel more overwhelming than it should. So today we're going to be addressing the spiritual centering secrets. But if you want to, there are other videos in the guide in our group about the mind mastery methods and the body optimization principles. But today we're going to be focusing on the spiritual centering secrets. And I'm so excited to offer you a free gift. At the end of this video, I will be giving away a free gift to all who want it. And I'll give you more information as we get into that. You're going to want to stick around to see what that free gift is. Okay. So here I want to kind of like put a disclaimer, lay a foundation for this conversation today. Okay. spirituality versus religion. It's a really touchy and loaded subject, because the chaotic nature of religion and there's been centuries and centuries that people have used religion to hurt people. And what I want to let you know today is this is not a discussion on religion. This is not about any one dogma or faith system or belief system saying that anything is any better than any others. This is not a preaching session. This is not, a set of principles. That's religion. This is going to be about spirituality. Okay, it's always a touchy subject because religion and spirituality is a very distinct part of our identity as humans. I believe we are all born with a God-shaped hole in our heart. And when you start to rub belief systems against each other between people, it can create a lot of offense. And so I want to let you know that I am a seeker. I am a studier of all religions. I have been just a perpetual student of spirituality and the divine since I can remember. And it hasn't always been an easy road. I will not say I'm one of those people that was just born spiritual. I can tell you that is the opposite of that, actually. I have been up and down many different roads, and I have a lot to share about that. But I'm just going to kind of breeze over some of that, but I will share some of my story as well with you. But what I just wanted to let you know that this is not going to be a preaching session. Okay, this is not an evangelical session by any means. I do have the majority of my spiritual background in Christianity, so you will hear me discuss maybe some Bible verses that kind of hammer in my point or things like that. But this is by no means meant to guide anybody towards any one set of religious principles. So I just want to kind of lay that disclaimer right now, but I want to just invite the idea that there is a supernatural element to our world. And forgive me, I need to do this every once in a while. For whatever reason, my computer lately has been like freezing up, and I have to like open and close it, and then it starts working again. So forgive me if you see me do that a few different times. But I want to just invite the idea that there's a supernatural element to our world, and that even, I discussed last week a little bit about the way our brain works and how our identity is severely, is formed a lot when we're kids. And a lot of that is part of that identity is religious principles and things like that and belief systems. But our identity is one of those things that defines us. And part of our identity is our spirituality. It's who we are, what we believe about God, and what we believe God believes about us, or if we want to use the word divine. And so, one of our greatest thinkers, and I've always loved studying Socrates, Plato and Aristotle were students of Socrates. And Socrates believed that true wisdom is basically admitting that you know nothing, because there is always a metaphysical element to everything that we experience in our reality. And having that humble spirit is the key to the divine, having humility in life. And another great thinker that I admire is Albert Einstein, one of the self-professed atheists in history. And yet he admitted that everyone who is seriously involved in the pursuit of science becomes convinced that a spirit is manifest in the laws of the universe, that a spirit vastly superior to that of man, and one in the face of which we, our modest powers, must feel humble. And I want to just invite the idea that humility is the key to this conversation. Is when, and it's just the same as when you see chaos in the world, you address it with curiosity. You don't try to push peace, because pushing anything is the opposite of peace, right? Curiosity allows you to step outside of the chaos and look at it in a different way. And humility allows you to step outside of spiritual chaos and allows you to look at it in a different way. So I invite the idea that humility in this conversation is going to be a way that we can all speak the same language, regardless of what our faith tradition or background is. And, you know, it's actually true that 93% of the world is spiritual, believes in something. There's only 7% of the entire world is proclaimed atheists, as in they believe in nothing. So 93% of the people in this world agree that there's a supernatural element to what we all experience on a day-to-day basis. Now, my background with religion and spirituality has been a particularly chaotic one. As far back as I can remember, I've been around spirituality, but I've always fought it. I've been one of those people that has to understand everything. And unfortunately, there is a certain point in your faith journey that you have to admit is beyond your understanding. You know, in the Hawaiian culture, which is a very spiritual culture. If you've ever been here, I invite you to come. The Hawaiians believed that there were spirits and gods that ruled every part of our life, and that there was a certain element of our life that we had to admit was beyond our control. And I was also raised in the Catholic Church, was forced to go to Sunday school every Sunday. My mother was a very devout Catholic, and we went to church every weekend. I didn't feel like I was in my element in the Catholic Church. My father, who was also raised Catholic and was sort of forced to go to church himself, forced us to go to church, but would stay home. And to me, that seeing of that hypocrisy sort of started to rub me in a way where I was like, well, if he doesn't believe enough to come, then maybe I need to figure out what it is that I believe and whether or not I should be coming. And so it kind of set me on a certain path. It set me on a path of discovering the divine, being a perpetual seeker of the divine. And in that path, I studied almost every religion out there, a lot of Eastern and Western different religions, including Wiccanism. I've studied Wiccanism. I've studied Buddhism. We have a lot of Asians in Hawaii, so there's a lot of opportunity to explore a lot of the Eastern faiths and belief systems and cultures and religion. And, I've studied Hinduism, and I've studied Christianity, many different types of Christianity, Judaism, Islam. I've studied all of it. And, it has been a rocky road for me because I am an intellectual person. I need to understand. And I think it was apparent to many of my mentors growing up in the Catholic high school that I went to, that I had this seeking nature because they chose me, my teachers and the staff and my fellow students actually voted me onto a specific team called the Life Team. And the Life stands for Living in Faith Experience. And these were just a group of 10 students that were chosen for their senior year to be the spiritual advisors of the other students. We would create retreats for them. We would go and do once a month, activities for them in their religion classrooms and things like that. And so I was sort of set apart from a very young age, but it never felt like it came naturally for me. And I don't know if that's ever been your experience. I would love to know if you've always ever felt like your spirituality came naturally, or if you feel like you may have had to fight for it a little more than most. I would love to know if you would give me a thumbs up in the comments below. I would love to see that energy and just know that I'm not alone out there, because I think that there are a lot of people that struggle. And what has been amazing is that hindsight is 2020. When I look backward, I can see the fingerprints of the divine throughout my life, moving me into the spheres of influence of certain people that have influenced much of my theology, and including marrying a boy who had the strongest connection to God that I ever thought I'd ever seen at that point. And he became a Methodist minister. And we got to go to seminary. And unfortunately, we couldn't afford for both of us to go to seminary. I was having babies at the time, but I got to audit a lot of the seminary classes. And it was there at seminary that I heard the voice of God for the first time, and the calling that God had placed on my life to empower the powerless. And so I became a co-pastor with him in his churches. And we were the spiritual advisors for many different churches for 15 full years. And it was a rocky road in that too, because there, even in the Christian church, there's a lot of dysfunction and a lot of very broken people. In any faith tradition, there is a lot of dysfunction and broken people because humanity is broken. And throughout that journey, I met mentors that are still my spiritual mentors to this day. In other denominations in the Christian church and in outside of the Christian church, they all feed my spirit. And my ministry has evolved to a ministry to all seekers, because I have a humility and a reverence for all faith traditions. So I just want to let you know that that's where my heart's coming from today. But what I did notice in all of my seeking is that there are 5 ways to reconnect to the divine. And I'm going to share those with you. But first, let's discuss, what does chaos in your spirit actually look like? Chaos in your spirit is that feeling of feeling alone, feeling empty. It is like wandering in the dark, feeling ungrounded or unfocused, maybe tossed by the waves of what's going on around you, like the world is just pulling at you from so many different directions. If you've ever felt lost, if you've ever felt alone, type in the word lost in the comment section. If you've ever at one point in your life felt lost, type in the comments, because I think that we can all identify with that feeling of feeling lost, or that feeling of disconnection, maybe disconnection from yourself, or disconnection from your purpose, disconnection from from a power that is greater than your own, maybe a distrust. Chaos can look like a distrust of the world, or a distrust or a need to control everything around us. An intense fear that sort of pervades everything that we do, especially of the unknown, of change itself. Those fears, that's chaos in your spirit. It can also manifest as being easily offended by other people's belief systems. When we have chaos in our spirit, we have a need to control, then it offends us if somebody else has a different idea than ours. In the Christian religion, we call that the orphan spirit, feeling like you're always an orphan, striving for attention and affection from God, and therefore have to be at odds with the rest of the world. Jesus wasn't like that. Jesus wasn't at odds with the world. Jesus wanted to go into the world. And I think that distrust of others and their belief systems, because you're afraid of holding and you need to hold on to yours, is chaos in the spirit as well. Or if anybody ever has hated their body, I know I struggled with this a lot when I was a teenager and in my 20s. If you've hated your body, or you never felt beautiful, or you hurt your body, I was a cutter for a few years, and I've actually gone to the loony bin for hurting myself before a couple of different times. And if you've ever hated yourself so much, you've lost that connection to the divine, because the divine loves you. The divine is love. And if you've lost that connection to the divine, then you hate yourself, or you hate the world, or you hate others. Hate at all is chaos in the spirit. And there's also that feeling of overwhelm, that the world feels too big. The world feels too scary. And, if you ever have felt that feeling of overwhelm, that's chaos in the spirit. According to Forbes magazine, in 2019, they did a study. And did you know that 64% of physicians believe that in the existence of a higher power? Science is a confirmation of faith in many ways. And we saw that in the quote by Einstein. He believed that the more you pursue science, the more you reveal faith. And the more you pursue faith, the more you show science, you confirm science. And so the two things go hand in hand. There is no difference between the energy flowing in us that animates our being, and the spirit that flows in us that speaks to us and guides us. And so when we have a strong connection to the divine, a strong connection to that which is greater than ourselves, we have more confidence in our future. We're able to navigate change with ease and trust. You know, we accept ourselves, we accept our bodies with a greater conviction about our worth. We have a connection to creativity and to peace that surpasses all understanding. You know, we are excited about our life's purpose, our calling, and we feel content in our careers or in our callings and focus, and we feel effortless in making decisions because our connection to our inner wisdom is clear. When we have a strong connection to the spirit, we have a spiritual connection to a higher power that and can statistically deal with stress better. There's been numerous studies on the benefits of having a belief in a higher power and its ability to help us deal with stress. But why do you think the 12-step program insists on having a connection to that which is greater? Spirituality is a major element in all change. It is very difficult to make a change in your life if you have no motivation or belief that something is pulling you toward it. And that's what a connection to the spiritual does, is it pulls you into a greater growth state. And, you know, only 10% of Americans, so 7% of the world, but 10% of Americans are atheists. So 90% of Americans believe in the supernatural, in the metaphysical. You know, most may be self-proclaimed agnostics. I think 30% are self-proclaimed agnostics, spiritual but not religious. But at least you agree that there's an element. We can all agree to that. And so today we're going to discuss the 5 ways to cultivate a healthy spirit. And the very first thing is to believe. We have to believe that there's something greater than ourselves, pulling us toward greatness. You know, it's like the wind beneath your wings. You know, if you can trust in a vision that is more real than your reality and feel pulled toward it, then that is that is literally the fuel for the fires of change. Socrates, Plato, they believed in a dimension of nature, dimension of reality that was supernatural, something that you had to continue to pursue and explore. They were the ones that came up with the idea of the God-shaped hole in all of us. And Plato's cave is a good analogy of this. If you've ever heard of the story of Plato's cave, he talks, and it's one of my favorite stories, he talks about there were these people in a dark cave, and they're in a circle, and there's a fire in between the circle, but their backs are to the fire. And they're looking at the walls of the cave where they can see the dancing flames around them. Well, something then is walking between the fire and their backs, causing shadows to be on the cave. To them, reality is those shadows, the things that they can see on the walls of the cave. But then one gets free from his bonds, and he goes and ventures outside of the cave and is at first blinded by the light and fears for his life and fears to go back into the cave because the light is overwhelming to him. But the more he stays in the light, the more his eyes acclimate, and he realizes that there's a reality far more real than what was on the walls of the cave. And that pursuit of wisdom, pursuit of spirituality. This is going to be a very emotional subject for me because it's my heart. That is the pursuit of the spirit. Finding the real that is beyond reality. And so belief is the first key, believing that there's something beyond what you can experience. The second way is to connect. You know, we have to tap into a greater source of energy and creativity to guide us towards greatness. We have to connect with it. We have to make an intentional effort to connect. So I ask you, do you feel supported and connected to a power greater than yourself? Are you a co-creator with it? Ask yourself, do you feel that this connection is present and active in your life and leading you and talking to you and speaking to you in ways that you can't always understand or maybe even hear clearly? There are specific practices that you can do to connect to the divine. Everything from meditation to worship services to music to walking around in nature. Matter of fact, there's a great book. What is it called? The seven. What is that? Oh gosh, I'm losing it. Anyway, it talks about the 7 paths to spirituality. There are 7 different ways that people can connect to spirituality. 7 trumpets, I think is what it's called. 7 trumpets. And it's about the 7 different ways that people can connect to the divine. You have the academic way, where you want to read and you want to study, and that is me. I'm an academic. Then you have the more worshiping way, where you connect with song and you connect an experience of people worshiping around you. Then there's the natural way, where you have to be out in nature and connecting to the spirit of the land and being in awe of. I encourage you to look up the book. I'll actually drop the information into the comments section, or you can reach out to me and I'll give you that information. But there are many different ways to connect to the divine, and finding what your heart uses most is important for finding your connection to the divine and connecting. And I'm so excited to share with you the gift that I have later, but let's keep going on this one first before I share that, because I want to jump right into that one. But connecting to the divine is like turning your bunny ears. Remember the bunny ears on televisions? It's like adjusting the bunny ears so that you can hear better. That's what connection to the divine is. The third way that you can strengthen your spiritual connection is a community. Is we strengthen each other. I resonate with the idea of the triune God of Christianity, because I believe we are all triune in the way that we are created. We are created to be in relationship with each other, and there's an internal relationship with ourselves. This is why we focus on body, mind, and spirit. Without all of those things, you're not a whole person. So that also goes for how we relate to the world. If we were created by a triune God in an innate community, then it makes sense that we were built for community and we're built for connection. And the important thing is that we surround ourselves with people who want to cultivate our authenticity, that want to accept us for who we are, that fill our batteries and nurture us to be our own authentic self. We want to feel energized by this community, not drained. I have worked in many churches that were draining and they were not energizing. And if you're a part of one, I encourage you to look for one that fills you, because you shouldn't be drained after connecting to the divine. It means that there's something that's blocking you there. And then the next way to connect to the divine is gratitude. Gratitude is like adding kerosene on the fire. Gratitude it's the power of positivity, right? It's focusing on what you have and not what you can't have. And it literally is connection in an energetic frequency that is abundant. So one of the things I've come to realize in all of my searching is that we are all energy. The world is various forms of energy. We're all vibrating at frequencies. Every cell in our body vibrates at frequencies, and those cells scientifically have been proven to vibrate at different frequencies depending on what's going on the inside, up here, in your gut. All of those things contribute to our vibrations. And when we experience gratitude, we get into a new vibrational level that connects us to abundance. And God wants us to live an abundant life. The divine created life for us to live abundantly. We were not meant to lock ourselves away and struggle in this world. We were meant to live abundantly. And so cultivating an attitude of gratitude is a major part of change science, because it allows you to destimulate those booby traps in your brain and those belief systems that could be holding you back. And then you can address them with a new energy and a new vibration for change. And it's fascinating what it can do. Okay, and then the last way to cultivate your spiritual healthiness, surrender. And this is a hard one. This is the one I struggle with most of all. We have the opportunity in life to struggle, or we have the opportunity to surrender. I think that this one's the one that's tripped me up the most in my journey, but I think God intended it that way, because my need to control everything has led me down some rocky roads, but those roads have always kind of turned around and led back towards God. And that is the funny way God works. And, you hear that phrase, anytime you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. And to me, that makes me laugh to this day, because it is so true. The minute you have a plan, then you'll find that the forces of darkness will come against that plan. But if you surrender to the spirit in your heart, to the plans that God has for you, which I believe God plants those seeds in our hearts. So when we have a drawing toward a higher existence, a drawing toward a certain vision or a certain calling, those things are planted there by the divine. And those are the things that we can say, okay, there's one reason, there's got to be a good reason I can't let this go. Let's just go ahead and lean into this. Let's trust, and let's surrender, and let's see where this takes us. There is it's an old Buddhist proverb that says, be open to everything and attached to nothing. I actually have that written on my wall up here. Be open to everything and attached to nothing. Because when we're open to everything, we are ready to explore lots of different roads. But we don't get let down if the road ends in a dead end. We're not attached to the outcome, which gives us the freedom to explore, to get curious. When we're attached to things, we invite chaos, we invite disappointment, we invite offense. But when we're open and we're curious, then we're not attached to the outcome, and we can venture into areas that we never thought we would ever want to. And that's the trick about surrender, is it's about curiosity. It's about being like, okay, well, there's a reason I'm being pulled towards this. There's a reason why I'm having these goals or this vision of myself, that, why don't I go ahead and see how I can pursue that? See what this holds, see where this road goes. You'll never know unless you travel down the road, but you've got to surrender to it first. And that's the beautiful thing about our spirituality. And these are the keys to a healthy and grounded spirit: belief, connection, community, gratitude, and surrender. And these are also the keys to the way that the Phoenix transformation works. These are the things that we focus on, no matter what your goal is. In our 90-day program, we make sure to address all of these things, because long-term change can't happen if one of these legs is missing from your stool. So regardless of what your goal is, I help you to nurture all of these different areas of your life. And now I get to invite you to our free gift. I have created a spiritual centering guided meditation. Meditation has become one of the game changers for my daily habits and my daily connection habits, because meditation allows you to, let me stop sharing for a minute. Let me tell you, the value of meditation is proven in science and religion both. And spirituality, meditation helps you to learn how to refocus your bunny ears. It helps you to learn how to deal with the ruminations or all of the different voices that are talking in your head. It helps you to get centered. It helps you to ground. It helps you to quiet the static and focus on that inner voice that's whispering to you from inside. And so this specific meditation is a great one for helping you to just get still. Just peace, be still. You say to the storm, peace, be still. And that is what this helps you to do. And it is a guided meditation. And I would like to offer it to anybody that would like it. Just go ahead and give me a comment, type the word meditation, and then I will send you the link to you by messenger. And I am very pleased to share this with you. And I hope that it helps you to find that centering to your spirit that maybe you've been missing or lost up to this point. So I ask you today, what are you being called toward? The divine is always calling us, and it's often us that are either holding ourselves back or have forgotten how to connect in the first place. Are you being called to a new career or maybe a new location, to being moved? Are you being called to step away from a habit or a relationship that is destroying you? Or are you being called to upgrade your body or your mind in order to inspire others, perhaps your children, to do the same? Whatever your calling, I encourage you to lean in, to go deeper, to get curious. The road may be daunting and unclear, but it's always worth it. Every battle scar that I've ever gotten along my journey has been worth it. And I offer you my hand. I was 23 in seminary when I first heard the voice of God calling me. And I was bawling my eyes out in a small chapel in seminary campus because I wanted to know why I had been through so much pain as a child. And it was there that I was called into ministry to the world. And the Holy Spirit assured me that the abuse that I suffered as a child didn't have the last word. It wasn't the last word in my life. But instead, it would become fuel for my ministry. Empower the powerless is the calling that was engraved on my heart that day. And I'm privileged to shepherd all of those from different cultures and backgrounds and faith traditions to be empowered, connected, and set free to achieve true freedom. I've faced more battles in my life than anyone should have to. And I fought and I sought the entire way. I've lost and been connected to God more different times than I can even remember along that journey. And with every time, with every battle, God revealed a new dimension of divinity for me to experience, and my anchor, my identity, my calling became stronger and clearer than ever before. Lean into the battles. It's the battles in life that help you grow. Through challenge, we achieve change. Don't run from the battle, surrender. And I am now a transformation specialist for people navigating change at a time in our lives when change feels overwhelming. Everyone is called to grow, to change, to thrive, not survive, thrive. And this is the nature of the divine. The Bible says the divine moves from glory to glory, and the divine resides within us. So I invite you to comment the word brave if you would like help along your specific journey, on your unique path to growing your body, to refining your mind, to reconnecting to your inner wisdom and to your spirituality. I'll just comment the word brave. I'll reach out to you by messenger and we'll just have a chat. It's that easy. And then from that chat, we'll decide if maybe we want to jump on a call. It's no harm, and it is everything to gain, nothing to lose, everything to gain. That is the end of the Moving from Chaos to Curiosity series. And I am curious, Phoenixes, how have you enjoyed this series? Please comment, leave a comment, send me a DM. I would love to just connect with you to know how you have been moved and transformed by learning the blueprint for becoming your bravest self your body optimization principles, your mind mastery methods, and now your spiritual centering secrets. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I will see you again next week with a new series where we will be exploring a lot of fun things. See you later.